The Australian Government Summer School for Teachers of Mathematics was conducted at the University of New England in January 2008. Mathematics teachers from around Australia attended a 10-day program of professional development that was facilitated by a large number of keynote presentations and workshops and seminars. Gilah Leder, who is the Emerita Professor at La Trobe University and Adjunct Professor at Monash University, gave a presentation on student diversity. Gilah, I was just wondering if you could tell us what the themes were of the presentation that you made.
Well, in the presentation I concentrated on 4 different groups. All students are diverse, of course, but as I said, 4 different groups, and in particular mathematically able students, one set of students who I think need special attention, students with special needs, students from a cultural and ethnically different background, and gender in mathematics. And as you know, I gave a separate talk on the gender in mathematics issue.
Right. So this presentation, how would you see its relevance to contemporary mathematics teaching?
Well, classrooms are very complex places, and teachers have enormous responsibilities, and I think responsibilities that very often are not fully appreciated by the public at large. So what I tried to do in my presentation was to remind teachers, and I guess many of them didn't really need reminding, that when they stand in front of a class and they have a large group of students, there will be students with very specific needs. So there will be some students who are particularly able mathematically and whose mathematical ability outstrips that of many of their classmates. There may well be excuse me, students with special needs. They may be students perhaps hearing deficiencies, or visually challenged students, physically challenged students. There will be students from very different cultural backgrounds, possibly with different home expectations from the ones that the teacher is familiar with, and possibly different from other students in the class. And then, of course, over the years, quite a lot of attention has been paid to the special needs of girls, and perhaps more recently boys, in education, and the special needs of girls in mathematics.
Right, so appreciating that there is this very diverse range of characteristics amongst the student population, what were the sorts of key issues or ideas that you wanted the teachers to go back to their schools with?
Well, probably the most important idea that I wanted to emphasise was that what happens in the classroom doesn't happen in a vacuum, but happens in a very important context. So when you try and get the most out of the students in your class, when you want to help them optimise their potential, you have to take note, first of all, of the students' particular personal attributes, but in addition, the sorts of expectations that they come to school with, the sort of aspirations that their parents may have, the sort of peer group with whom they associate, and whose aspirations may or may not be ones that you as a school teacher would like to see.
Yes.
So whatever I spoke about, I wanted to really stress the fact that teaching does not take place in a vacuum.
Right. So I guess one of the measures of the success of the summer school will be what the teachers do when they return to the classroom. I just wonder what sort of ideas and practices that you would hope the teachers might be able to implement when they return to.
Okay, well, let's focus on the first group of students that I talked about, the mathematically able students. What I did was to present data, and I guess a lot of those data might not have come as a surprise to many of the teachers, but I shared data which indicated that very often students are, some of these highly able mathematics students are able to cope extremely well with material that's usually presented, let's say, 3 years later. So having established that, it was interesting to see just what the characteristics, what the attributes of those problems were, and we discussed that using various technical terms with which the teachers are certainly familiar.
Right.
They'd already had a couple of days at the summer school, And those qualities of the problems, I guess they would be able to use to assess what's in their curriculum and to decide whether or not the average fare is appropriate, or whether they can change the sorts of problems that they give students, the sorts of demands that they make. Using as a starting point some of the examples that I gave during the lecture. I should also say that one of the really wonderful things I think about the organisation of the summer school is the substantial time that's been built into the day, into the program, for teachers to get together either as a whole or in smaller groups and to discuss issues that were raised during the seminar that they attended and that perhaps they wanted to explore in greater detail. And some of those issues are issues which can best be described as problems in the classroom. And when you have a group of highly capable mathematics teachers who come from diverse backgrounds, if they're prepared to share their experience, very often a problem is resolved in that way.
Oh.
So the seminar was used as a starting point. I've only mentioned one of the topics I've covered, but I try to have raise a number of issues which would be meaningful to the teachers and which could be used as stepping stones for further discussion.
Right. So with the summer school, the website will hold resources for teachers to come back to and refer to. Are there other areas, printed material or resources on the web that you would want to refer people to as additional material?
Well, for the main lectures that I gave, I indicated a number of articles that I thought people could look at. I also mentioned a number of books which are on particular topics which I have found extremely helpful, and those books are usually readily available in libraries. I didn't mention any books that need a magnifying glass or a search party to be found. So provided people have time, they would certainly be able to follow up those references that I gave. I know that a number of handouts were also provided at the summer school, and each article invariably has a number of further references, so they would be available as well. What of course is interesting, you mentioned the web. It is now possible to sit at a desk and to, in many cases, to find the full content of an article on the web. And certainly with those articles and books where, well, you can't find the whole book on the web usually, but those articles where complete detailed references are given, teachers would be able to sit in their study at home or in their classroom, and they should be able to find the whole article, or articles which were references in the articles they've already seen.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much for that, Gilah. We much appreciate the time to talk.